welcome back to Jacksonville Buzz's episode of Legacy of Leaders. I'm Steve Strum. This morning we have Megan McBride from BAYS. Good morning, young lady.
Good morning.
It might be afternoon.
Afternoon.
But, it's TV, so it lives forever.
That's right.
So thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
We were talking a little offset about what is a BAYS, and you guys are doing some good stuff.
Right.
What's BAYS?
So BAYS has been around for 40 years. We are a nonprofit social service agency. A lot of our services, we work in conjunction with the Department of Juvenile Justice to really provide oversight and supervision of kids that have run into a little bit of trouble. So we provide case management services as well as some supervision programs in the community for those kiddos that have offended or broken the law, and we're not willing to hold them in detention. So we're going to release them back to their families, but we're going to provide that additional oversight and community supervision.
So you are helping kids under 18, minors,
Correct.
have an opportunity if they make a mistake,
Right.
which happens. I mean, we were all teenagers at one point.
Yeah.
We were talking a little offset about some of those things in our youth, right?
Right.
Thank God Facebook didn't not exist when I went to college. But kids get in trouble.
Right.
It happens. And it's either a victim of circumstances, a victim of maybe home life, a victim of the current environment. I mean, we are living in an era that has completely changed in human interaction in the last 3 years, which has to take a toll on kids. And if you have at-risk kids, they're going to go back to where the bed's cozy, which might be getting in trouble.
Absolutely.
So that's a program you guys have.
Right.
We were also talking a little bit about a program that you have for the current mental health issues.
Sure.
Now, the whole world should be in therapy.
Right.
And unfortunately, and after COVID, right? As an adult, I experienced it a certain way. I have 4 kids, and each one of them experienced it in a certain way, from the lack of socialization to how did I not have my high school prom?
Right.
So talk a little bit about some of those side of the things that BAYS does.
Absolutely. So, BAYS is enriched in their partnership with DJJ, the Department of Juvenile Justice. But in 2018, we went through what we call our behavioral health boom, because BAYS recognized that there is a need, like you were saying, for mental health services, specifically related to the family system. So we've found that, when you have a secure attachment within your home and the family is functioning, that's a protective factor. So those risk factors for those children, naturally, they reduce. So functional family therapy is an evidence-based modality that BAYS practices at 7 different locations throughout the state of Florida. It's an in-home therapy program where we go in and we work with the family to just really redefine some of the behaviors that are occurring within the relationship between the child and the caregivers. And I think the interesting part is that it's in-home, but also that we get started immediately. So our therapists make contact with our families within 24 hours, and we get going within the first 7 days of referral.
Now, is this more like crisis management therapy, or is this more I need to adjust to my new reality, or is it both? Like when you talk about immediate, right? You go and call any mental health professional right now, you're on a 6-month wait list.
Sure.
And telling of our society, of the stress that we're under, but I think it's also telling we are in an era by which we are comfortable in acknowledging, for the most part, some of our issues that we have to deal with, right? Whether it's COVID related, family related, work related, there's all the stress and anxiety that just seems to be growing at an exponential rate. And I think our generation, right, says, hey, you know what? I probably need to talk to somebody about that.
Sure.
Where like our parents, that's taboo. So you have both the social normatization that therapeutic type things are good, and then you have a shortfall of people to actually prefer the services equals a backlog. How are you able to get 24 hours to get to somebody who's in crisis when the rest of that type of industry is so horrifically behind?
Sure. So back to your point about crisis services, I would say it could be defined as a crisis service because most of our families hear about our services, hear about our programs when they have been touched by a system, whether that's the Department of Juvenile Justice, their child's been arrested or gotten into some trouble, or through the Department of Children and Families where there's been just a report or an investigation, and there's no immediate, safety risk, but somebody outside of the home in that system determines that there's a need for additional support.
Got it. So it may not be full-blown 4-alarm crisis, but it tends to lean into that side where it's not my son's having trouble with adjusting to a new school type of thing. This is more of we're on the bubble of being either at risk or having an event, whether incarceration, abuse, what have you.
Correct.
That you guys intervene there to put the stopgap, and then help to support that as they're getting through to maybe a facility that may have a wait time.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
So it's a prevention service.
So one of the things that we always spend a minute talking about, which I don't think I really need to do here, is, what are you doing to give back for the community? I think what you're doing for the community is evidence of what you're doing because you exist to help those in need.
Correct.
If people want to find out more about your organization, or more about you guys, how to engage, if they are in crisis but they don't know where to turn, what's the best way to connect?
So the best way for us to connect is our website. So that'll be www.bayskids.org. You can go on there, you can read about every program that we have to offer and where that program is located and their direct contact information as well as the referral form. So you don't have to go through a third party, you just go to that website and everything you can need would be right there.
And that is statewide.
That is statewide.
So we have some tune in from outside the state of Florida, but this is Florida, anywhere in the state of Florida.
Correct.
Doesn't just have to be Jackson.
Everywhere but Key West. So BAYS is everywhere but there, but we're trying. We're trying to get down there.
That's pretty close to not Florida.
Yeah.
I think that's we're about that far from the equator.
Right.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. And in all sincerity, as a parent and as a person that's participated not just in the universe in the last 4 or 5 years, which has changed every dynamic of everybody,
very true,
but working with a lot of people that are on that borderline crisis, it's really amazing what your organization is doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anytime for come on back anytime. Guys, thanks for joining us on Legacy of Leaders. If you like us, share us. Remember, live with gratitude.